breaking the end of the season, huh?
Right, written it, done. Actually, we hit send on the email to the studio, sending them the finale on Saturday.
Oh,
So all finished. Was that only yesterday? Yes, it was only yesterday.
Holy cow.
No conception of time.
Time is a construct. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it really is. It's who needs that, you know?
David Clinton.
Who's David Clinton?
Kronos.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Wow, that's really bad. That's really bad. I'm terrible. I'll punish myself later.
Don't worry about it.
What can I tell you guys?
So are island flashbacks going to be part of the story of the show permanently, or is that for the whole run of the show?
Well, our original plan was, to do 5 years on the island and, 5 years of story and 5 seasons of television.
Right.
And the last island flashback would be him hitting the bonfire and signaling the boat, just like the pilot opens. So basically the last moment of the series would be the first moment of the series. Now, that's all assuming a 5-year trajectory for the show. Look, I honestly don't know how long the show is going to run.
Right.
If it runs more than 5 years, I think we sort of have to reassess our plan, but I think that would be a quality problem. Just because I don't know, if we could, I don't want to artificially stretch out the amount of flashback time we have. So we originally thought of 5 years, and we'll see if the show runs longer than that. The plan is to keep the flashbacks coming, for the duration for sure.
You guys have signed on 3 new series regulars for next season. Does that imply anybody's on their way out at the end of this year?
No, it just implies that we have a lot of really, really talented actors who we wanted to nail down. I will say a studio that was really generous with their money. Because, you have to pay all these people. We got really lucky. I will say, of the 3, we never planned on, we didn't know that Felicity would even be a part of the show. She wasn't originally conceived in the show. We never expected to bring Roy on so quickly. I will say, we realized halfway through the season that it would be very helpful to have a series regular on the island, just in terms of producing the show, week in, week out. But it's really a reflection of the fact that we have an embarrassment of riches in terms of actors, and I guess an embarrassment of riches in terms of money.
It's a good thing.
Well, obviously, like you said, you hope it goes for 5 years. It's been very successful. I know, sort of in the comic book world, whenever people talk about Green Arrow, it's always in terms of, well, how do we get people to relate to him? Because he's got silly arrows and things. But that problem doesn't really seem to have popped up at all for the TV show. Why do you think that sort of is? What's the success with that in TV versus with the comics?
Good question. I think one thing we've avoided the silly arrows, but it's funny. I think the Green Arrow in the comics has been handled by a lot of really, really talented people, and I think like any character of any duration like Green Arrow, he's creatively had his ups and his downs and his successful periods and his unsuccessful periods. I would put the stuff that Mike Grell and Brad Meltzer and Kevin Smith and Judd Winnick, I'd put all their material up against anything that's been done in comic books as being really quality. I think the advantage that we had in the television show over the comic book version is that we created a whole cast of characters around Oliver that helped make him more relatable. Truth be told, in the comics, Green Arrow's basically had Black Canary, and that was the extent of his supporting cast. And he's had Roy, but we went to great lengths to give him a sister, a best friend, a mother. He doesn't have any of those things. Diggle, he doesn't have any of those things in the comics. And when you talk about what makes the character relatable, I think it's the people around him. So, if I were to tackle the comic book as a writer, the first thing I would do is try to give him a supporting cast that would help help sort of elaborate on his character.
A lot of the time, I've noticed in either comics or television, Oliver is used as sort of as a checks and balances system with a lot of the other heroes. Dark Knight Returns, you kind of get the feeling that if Bruce's little army kind of gets too out of line, Oliver's going to be there to smack him back to reality. There's that scene at the end of the 4th season of Justice League when Superman tries to disband the team, and Oliver's like, no, you see, you're worried about going nuts and taking over. We're your check. We guard the Guardians. So with that in mind, are we going to see Oliver interacting with any of the other familiar characters in the comics soon, say maybe the Question or anyone like that?
Well, the Question's definitely on my list of DC characters that I think, A, I just happen to love personally, but also B, who would fit very much into the voice of the show. And one thing we talk about for season 2 is getting Oliver out of Starling City and having him travel around a little bit more. Certainly going to Hub City would be a fun thing to do. I think the trick for us is always, evolving the show to include sort of all these quote-unquote other comic book characters in a way that feels organic to the show and not let the cart drag the horse. But we've talked a lot about the Question. I think it was a lot of fun to have the Huntress on the show this year. So, as with all things on the show, it really starts with the story first, and if we can come up with a great story, then we'll absolutely do the Question. And that's assuming he's available to us. I mean, I never want to assume that we'll, be able to use a given DC character, but everyone at DC has been really wonderful about giving us access to the toy chest.
Or some of the other characters, say like in the Bat universe, like potentially up for grabs now because Nolan's movies are done. Because when we did the Superman press, Bob expressed how he'd love to play Nightwing.
Oh, cool!
So
that's good to know.
And that would be I think that would be a great kind of character to fit in.
We think so too, and we do talk a lot about Nightwing, but at the same time, it is up to DC as to when they're going to make the Bat characters sort of available. I think they need to figure out some Justice League stuff, some Batman movie stuff. But the the two nice things is that hopefully the show will have a nice long longevity, and also everyone at DC has been incredibly collaborative and supportive, and they come at it from the same philosophy that we all do. Like, they want to see it happen, so it's management of, I guess, corporate assets, and I would say stay tuned. If that character ever becomes available to us, we would be very willing participants.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry guys. Okay, thanks.